24-hour business plan.
Welcome back to the 24-Hour Business Plan podcast. One of the areas of executional elements that many of our clients ask us about is, how do they maintain really strong relationships with their key customers or their key clients or their key consumers? And it's a really interesting one to think through because, again, if you're a B2C company and you've got thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of customers and you might be an online site selling something, then I think the key to that is around personalization nowadays. How do I personalize messages to that person? I know the sorts of things they've liked. We often, if you might be, on a site for some clothes or some wine or whatever it might be, and all of a sudden you get an email and actually that's pretty good. I wouldn't mind buying that. And that's because, they truly are trying to understand their customers and their habits and target marketing in a very, very specific way to them. If you're a B2B client, it's a little bit different. From a B2B point of view, it's about building really strong relationships from the top to the bottom. And often we encourage our B2B clients to have account plans. Write down, how strong is our relationship with, say, the CEO versus the next level down that we might be dealing with, or even some of the younger people who might come up through the organisation. Are there other revenue opportunities within that organisation? Are there other similar players to us that are also, getting good business out of that client? And are there ways that we might be able to think about, building our relationships, making it stronger and giving us more of a unique opportunity with them? And what are they trying to do as an organisation? What are their plans? How can we align what we're doing back to some of their objectives? So I think it's really good. If you're a B2C organisation, doing some research, understanding what your customers are doing, going out and observing them. I remember many, many years ago in my early advertising days going and sitting out at a shopping centre and just watching how people walked in and out of a store for a client that we were doing some work for and just observing them. And we learnt a lot about the way they went about buying and browsing and all those sorts of things. Doing some research with them, asking them what they're looking for, what are their needs going forward is quite critical. Now, if you're a B2B and you might only have 20 clients, it's much easier to go and actually have some one-on-ones with them. Do some quarterly reviews that are outside your normal cycle. Do some annual reviews where you sit down with one of your two or three or four or five key customers at the end of the year and sort of just review how the relationship's been going, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what can we improve on, and reminding them about the mutual success that's happened that year. We often forget as we get into the day-to-day of working with our clients to stop and think about those success stories, something that we might have done in February and all of a sudden it's December. But bringing those back up and learning from them is quite critical. People also ask about how can we measure the strength of our client relationships, and one of the more popular tools is the Net Promoter Score. Would you recommend this organisation to somebody else? And whether you're B2C or B2B, those sorts of scores still work. You can do your own way of doing that, but I think it's always important to understand the strength of the relationships you've got with your clients and customers. One of the other key elements of our 8 pillars of executional excellence is our strategic partners, and I often say that it's the most forgotten part of business planning. If you go and Google business plan templates, most of those templates, whether they come from a bank or a government or whoever it might be, they're all pretty much got the same headings. And it's important, though, one of the headings that's always forgotten is around strategic partners because they're often critical for our organisation. They could be a partner that helps provide leads. More often than not, you might be able to work with somebody who's not a competitor, but you've got the same customers, you've got the same target audience. So how can we work with them to generate leads for each other? Other times it might be a strategic partner that's providing expertise to you. It could be marketing expertise. Often, might have an ad agency. It could be an accountant. It could be a more strategic resource. It could be a research partner that helps you better understand those customers that we just talked about. Or it could be someone that's providing operational support. Sometimes our landlord could be one of our critical strategic partners. Or it could be an outsourced IT department or an outsourced HR resource or an outsourced finance resource. Or many big organisations will often outsource their logistics. Rather than having warehouses and trucks themselves, they'll go to a 3PL or 4PL and work with them. The big watch out when we talk about strategic partners, yes, they can help you grow your business over time. They can help fast track your business. There's less risk when you're working with somebody. You're not having to pay, build that resource yourself. You can fast track it. The watch out is when you end up with a single reliance on somebody. It could be an organisation, or it could be an individual person. All of a sudden, it could be, say, an IT person that's not on staff, it's outsourced, and all of a sudden they get very busy on another client and they're not servicing you as well, and that's critical to delivering on a tender or something coming up. So the watch out in that strategic partner space is those that you've got a single reliance on, and what you might do about that as you're thinking through executing that plan with excellence. Thanks for listening to another 24-Hour Business Plan podcast.
24-hour business plan.